Hi, I'm Chris from Airwindows, and I have a fun little plugin this week that hopefully people will enjoy. Let's go over immediately and see it. It is Isolator. Now this is something that came out of my work with Biquad filters. Biquad filters are interesting because they're a really good quality of filter, but they're not ideally suited to manipulating the controls. That said, Isolator is kind of known for a DJ style effect where you can kind of sweep things. Here, let's show it. One of these days I'm going to stop doing plugins and make another song. But for the time being, here's Isolator. So what this is a filter that can be swept, and I've got a high and low because it'll work as a crossover. This is the kind of thing that you'd use as a speaker crossover, and it's about a 36 dB per octave. The way it's implemented is it's got three biquad filters in series with specially contrived Q factors, resonance factors. And you can accomplish the slopes you want by not just using the same Q factor every single time, but using a prearranged set of resonance factors to get this result, which is not a feedback filter, synthesizer filter type resonant filter, but a very neatly arranged cutoff. It's, again, a speaker filter kind of thing. We can go to full dry, and then now the deal with the biquads is it's meant to be a fixed frequency setting. So you can sweep this, but if there's a lot of stuff going into the highs and you're listening to high, you could get artifacts or glitches. Same with low. But because the Q factor is not radical and extreme in the way that my plugins sometimes let it be, like I allow very weird Q factors sometimes from my biquads, this is using 0.5, the golden ratio, and the inverse golden ratio, which gives you that neat 36 dB per octave roll-off. And this is the kind of DJ effect that one uses if you have the entire mix going through stuff and you decide you're going to sweep it right down from the top to all suppressed and then start bringing it up, like while going yay with your hands or whatever, but you're manipulating this one control. And that's the effect. And that's pretty much what that does. So yeah, Isolator is free, as all of my plugins are free, because the idea is they are open source and I'm supported by Patreon. That's how I'm still here to do this. So anybody who's on the Patreon, thank you, obviously, for making it possible for me still to be working this week and putting out another plugin. Now, the neat thing about Isolator is it's not exactly the same as like your DAW plugin that you might use for something like this. You can define a roll-off filter, and using the high and low in there, you could also make it be a shelf. You can do various things with it. But it's really designed for just being that extremely steep cutoff, like around 36 dB per octave. It's what you'd use for a speaker crossover, and that's what they use in the DJing type thing when they're using a Isolator for that reason. It's using those three staggered Q factors, resonance factors, for the filtering. It's using the original, most efficient biquad algorithm, which is not actually an algorithm designed for moving around the control, but at those Q factors you can get away with it, as you've heard. It's using a new arrangement for the frequency setting, which I am actually quite interested as to whether I should introduce it into my other biquad filters, which would mean that the position of the control in people's saved things would change, so maybe I'm not going to do that. But this new arrangement of how to do the knob so that you have a slider, it was always designed to give you low frequencies up to the fullest range of the Nyquist frequency, as in it's not 0 to like 20K, it's 0 to whatever your sampling rate is going to be. And you're hearing it on a 96K, or you were hearing it on a 96K recording. The thing is, I've got a new way of positioning the frequency setting so it adapts itself differently to sample rates. So 44K should give you mid-range about in the middle there. It's a pretty wide range of adjustment around the outside edges there, but mid-range in the middle there. And then if you're at 96K or even 192K, mid-range is still going to sit in the middle, but the extreme settings will give you the supersonic frequencies to adjust. It's not going to just stop at human hearing. It's going to go beyond that, and it's still going to sit the mid-range in the middle of the control where you can get at it. So yeah, recent developments in Airwindows filtering technology and the way that it interacts with the settings of the controls. If you want to use it as a shelf, do that by adjusting the high and low controls. You can manipulate the output volume by having them not cranked up all the way. And yeah, it's a fairly simple thing. Oh, I also forgot to mention, Isolator, much like Biquad Double and Biquad Triple, runs using the Airwindows console system to manipulate what's inside the algorithm. Basically, it's expanding out the output of the algorithm so that anything that is... I'm getting too technical. Maybe I should stop. Put it this way. It doesn't operate like your DAW filters. It's doing the Airwindows console thing, which is a sine decoded by an arcsine calculation, meaning that it's going to strongly affect the tone of that biquad, which again is a better sounding biquad relative to other stuff that's more compatible with sudden changes in the control. So I would say if it gives you artifacts or coughs or sputters for any reason, move it more slowly and gently. It probably won't give you any trouble. It's not really giving me any trouble, but I wouldn't rule it out. If it does anything weird, then either handle it more gently or... I don't know. There's always a price to everything that you do. And the price to this one is it's doing a very good job of giving the sound you'd want out of this type of effect. I also forgot to mention that if you have it in low pass, no high, and cranked up all the way, it's complete bypass. It's going to still do the calculations so that there should be a seamless transition. But if you have it at all low pass, no high, but frequency is cranked all the way up to the top, it is bypass. So you can have this on the mix bus with no penalty. While you're not using it, it's bit identical, pure digital bypass, go straight through. And that's because people, I'm assuming, are going to want to throw this on the mix bus to do that effect. It's an effect I would not have heard in the rock world, because they don't really do that in the rock world. But I've heard it multiple times like Carl Cox mixes and stuff like that. People who are doing EDM, they're doing dance music, and they're finding this DJ way of doing something interesting with it while they're playing it back. It puts you more into the sort of synthesis type thing. Suddenly you're doing a almost resonant low-pass filter type thing, but the DJ community doesn't really think of it as a resonant filter so much as the sound is a very steep filter doing this. So yeah, if you would like to take this code and do it in your own thing, all you have to do is honor the MIT license, shout me out with your derivative work, and the code is up on my GitHub repository, and it's licensed under the MIT license. You can use it. And if you want to throw it on whatever mixes or studio work you're doing, might also work for people who are simply looking for a nice clean way to cut a bunch of highs or cut a bunch of lows using this type of filter thing, using a nice steep 36 dB per octave filter that does not resonate or do anything else weird, because it's fairly well calculated to do that. It does a pretty good job. That said, I hope you like this. Again, this is supported by me being on Patreon, and that's how I'm still out here doing this work. I'm doing more music. You can see the blinky lights in the distance there. I'm getting more into performing my electronic music on YouTube these days. If you follow this channel, which, hey, follow, like, and subscribe. We live on YouTube, and I suffer under the conditions of YouTube, meaning that I'm probably suffering because I don't say that every video. But I'm doing more music these days, and so if you're interested in that, it will be clearly labeled in your stream, in your notifications or whatever when it comes up. You'll be able to see that it's a plugin, or that it's a music jam, or that it's me coding live on stream, which I also do on Mondays. And, gosh, what else? I need to go and make my dinner. This is all supported by Patreon. There will be a link in the description. If you follow the channel, there's all kinds of stuff I'm doing on the channel these days, and it's working out better than it ever has before. And yeah. Thanks, folks. I hope I have given you something that you enjoy. And with that, I'll talk to you later. And I'll see some of you on Monday when I do my music. I'm doing so many things, it's confusing. Monday I'm doing coding. And on other days I'm doing music streaming with my all analog, analog except for some of the things are digital. It's a long story. This is where I get the inspiration for the sounds that I do in plugins, because I'm making it possible for people to do stuff on the computer when they don't have a studio, but it's based off of the stuff that I've learned out of analog studios, and it's supposed to sound like that. And with a bit of luck, Isolator will sound as good as any analog isolator that you could be using. That's my hope. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.